In the original timeline, Maul fought against the rebels on numerous occasions. However, imagine if he used his power to help destroy the Emperor, and I've always wondered, what if Maul joined the rebellion? I think Maul would join the rebellion during the season 2 finale of Star Wars Rebels. Instead of fighting against Kanan and Ahsoka, he would fight with them, after Ahsoka would convince him to use his strength against the Emperor instead of them. After defeating the Inquisitors, they would head up to the top of the Sith Temple to find Ezra trying to pull the holocron out of its place, as he discovered it's used for destruction and not the knowledge he thought it would grant them. Maul tried to tell them they should use it, but before he can argue his case, they all turn around to see Vader coming in on top of his TIE fighter. Maul pleads with them that they have to run immediately and that they cannot defeat Vader, and they quickly grab the holocron and go to exit, causing the temple to begin self-destructing. Whilst leaving, Ahsoka locks eyes with her former master and can tell Anakin Skywalker is no longer alive. They escape and head back to the rebel base. Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka further try to convince Maul to join the rebellion, who states he only wants two things in life: to kill his old master Sidious and get revenge on Obi-Wan Kenobi, but ultimately decides he will help the rebels defeat the Emperor. Maul explains that together they can discover the secret to destroying the Sith. If they combine the Jedi and Sith holocron together, the Force will grant them the answers they seek. Anakin and Kanan are skeptical at first. They understand Maul has joined them to defeat a common enemy, but they're not fully on board with his methods. They've never heard of combining holocrons, but Ezra manages to convince them. Together, the four of them meditate, combine the holocrons, and ask the Force how they can defeat the Emperor. The Force grants them the answers and shows them a young teenage boy with sandy blonde hair, whom Ahsoka realizes the resemblance immediately. That face, she knows that face, but also an older girl with brown hair who none of them know, but undoubtedly know they will cross her path in the future. In the following years after this, Maul helps the rebellion establish their control and power, using his old contacts in the crime syndicates to procure more ships and weapons for the cause. He joins the Ghost Squadron on many missions, helping with their success against Thrawn, who has been attacking them for a while now. After Hera is captured by Governor Price, Maul is pivotal in her escape alongside Kanan. In the original timeline, Rook contacts Price about their location, and thus targets the fuel depot, which results in Kanan's death. However, in this story, Maul holds off Rook for long enough and eventually kills him, so Governor Price is never told about where the rebels are heading, and thus Kanan successfully escapes with Hera. During the years 3 to 0 BBY, the various rebel factions become fully aligned. With Maul's contacts, he's acquired an entire new fleet, which Hera and the Ghost Squadron commands. They used this in the liberation of Lothal. However, they lost Ezra, who banished Thrawn with him to the unknown regions. We now reach the time of Rogue One. Hera is part of the Rebel Council, and alongside the Ghost Squadron, they are on Yavin 4 when Jyn Erso makes her plea with them to go to Scarif and search for the Death Star plans, as without them, they stand no chance against the Empire. The Council was skeptical and ready to abandon her ideas. However, Kanan, Maul and Ahsoka speak up and give their opinion. This is the girl they saw when they combined the holocrons years ago, so she must hold the key to something important. They tell the Council the Force is backing this girl and that they will follow what she says and does. This manages to convince Mothma and Organa, who turn the rest of the Council. The Rebel Alliance uses all their force on a full-blown attack on Scarif. They successfully steal the Death Star plans and everyone escapes before Vader's fleet arrives. They take the information back to Yavin 4 and confirm the Death Star is indeed real. Organa contacts Obi-Wan Kenobi, telling him that the time has come when he is needed to strike against the Empire. Ahsoka goes with him to Tatooine, who couldn't believe Obi-Wan was alive and well. Together, the three of them go to the Lars farm to talk to Luke. They tell Luke the truth about his family, how his father was Jedi Anakin Skywalker and his mother was Senator Padme Amidala of Naboo. They teach him the history of the Jedi, their fate, and tell the boy it's his destiny to avenge his father and restore the Jedi Order by defeating Darth Vader and Emperor Sidious. They specifically don't tell Luke the true identity of his father. Luke is completely overwhelmed by this and doesn't know what to do. He decides not to go along with them as he doesn't believe what 3 strangers have barged in and said. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka tell Luke that if he changes his mind, to use the Force to find them, where they will be ready to train him. That night, Luke has a vision of his father, the chosen one Anakin Skywalker, and watches his elegance with a lightsaber and power through the Force. The vision ends with Anakin telling his son that he must become a Jedi. Luke is thrust wide awake and decides to go follow his father's wishes. However, now he has no means of finding them. He decides to go to Mos Eisley to look for transportation. Here he meets with Han Solo in the cantina, who tells him he needs transport off-world. They begin traveling together, and Han and Luke instantly click, becoming great friends. Han asks Luke where he's planning to go, who closes his eyes on the Navi computer and uses the Force to select Yavin 4, and they head there immediately. When they arrive, Luke is introduced to his sister, Leia, who's just learned of her past from Bail Organa. The rebellion is planning the assault on the Death Star, and Luke proclaims he's a great pilot and can help. He also recruits Han, as he manages to convince the Alliance to pay for his services, as Luke vouches for his piloting skills. However, when Obi-Wan returned from Tatooine to Yavin 4, the infamous reunion with Maul took place. Maul froze when he saw the Jedi Master alive and well, and the same happened with Obi-Wan. This is the man that killed his master, Qui-Gon, and lover, Satine. Maul begins rushing over, but Ahsoka stops him in his path, telling him this will not happen. Obi-Wan wants to feel anger towards Maul for all he's done, but he sticks to his Jedi training and doesn't let his emotion cloud his judgment. Maul is working with them now, and he's done a lot of good for the rebellion. He has to accept that. Obi-Wan greets Maul and tells him he's glad to see he's working with the rebels. Maul tells him to silence, and that he's dreamed of the day when he can exact his revenge on Obi-Wan. Kenobi comes to a compromise with Maul. If he helps them defeat the Emperor, he will grant Maul a duel, an opportunity to exact his revenge. However, if he doesn't, he will never fight him, and he'll never get this chance. The rebels successfully take down the Death Star, with Luke Skywalker firing the finishing blow, having inherited his piloting skills from his father. The Emperor and Vader significantly underestimated the strength of the Rebel Alliance, and now halt their expansion into unclaimed territory and focus solely on taking out the rebels. Luke and Leia begin their training under Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Kanan. Their strength in the Force grows exponentially, and they surprise even Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. Luke inherited the lightsaber of his father, and Leia crafted her own. They continue training until the time of the Empire Strikes Back. Luke and Han have become best friends, which convinces Han to join the Rebel Alliance. The Rebel base was relocated to Hoth. However, they were discovered and tracked down by Lord Vader and his fleet. The rebels are forced to scatter around the galaxy. Luke and Leia escape with Obi-Wan, whilst Han escapes with Chewbacca and Kanan. Obi-Wan decides it's time for the Skywalkers to further their training and go to Dagobah, where they meet and train with Yoda for some time. Yoda was surprised by the power of the twins and could tell they were the hopes and future of the Jedi Order. Their training was going smoothly until Luke senses his best friend Han and Kanan Jarrus are in danger after being captured by the Empire. Luke decides to go rescue them against Yoda and Obi-Wan's wishes. Leia and Ahsoka join him, and they go to Cloud City. They arrive on Cloud City to find a trap left by the Empire to capture Luke, the pilot who destroyed the Death Star. Vader arrives with some of his Inquisitors, and they are quickly thrust into battle. Luke takes on his father, Vader, who points out to Luke that the lightsaber he's holding is his. However, Luke tells Vader that it's impossible, that this lightsaber belonged to his father, Anakin Skywalker, whom he murdered. Vader stops in place and doesn't move. Ahsoka defeats her Inquisitor and walks over to Luke. She pleads with Vader, calling him Anakin, telling him to stop what he's doing and become the man he once was. Luke's confused. He doesn't know why Ahsoka's calling Vader Anakin, but then it hits him. Luke called Vader his father and looks at Ahsoka, who's asking her to explain. Leia defeats her Inquisitor and joins the conversation. Ahsoka explains to all of them how Luke and Leia are the twin children of Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala. She tells Vader to use the Force to sense it, who undoubtedly can. Vader looks at his children, telling them to join him, that he can teach them the ways of the Force and together can rule the galaxy. But they refuse. They won't join the dark side and commit the atrocities he has committed. Ahsoka speaks up, telling Vader what Padme would have wanted. She would have wanted her children and their father together on the light side of the Force, fighting for good and opposing the evil of the Empire. She says it's not too late, that he can still come back. Luke tells his father he can sense the good in him, that the Emperor hasn't driven it from him fully. Vader drops to his knees and looks at his robotic hands, asking himself what has he done. But Leia tells him he's come back to the light and can begin atoning for his sins by helping them defeat the Emperor. They travel back to the Rebel fleet where they meet with Yoda and Obi-Wan. They are shocked when they see Vader, and Obi-Wan reaches for his lightsaber, but Ahsoka tells him that it's okay, he's come back to their side. He goes to Obi-Wan and Yoda, tells them he's sorry for all of it, and that only his actions from here on can pay for what he's done. Together, the Jedi and Vader meet with the Rebel Council, who are beyond skeptical to see Vader with them. However, they manage to convince them of his turn to their side. Vader tells them key information, that a second Death Star is being constructed by Endor, and that the Emperor spends most of his time there. If they move quickly, whilst its cannon is not operational, they can take down the space station and the Emperor at once. They begin planning their attack at once. Without Vader's knowledge, this would not be possible. The entire Rebel fleet comes out of hyperspace at the coordinates Vader listed to see the poorly constructed Death Star. Sidious is told of this revelation, who commands his fleet to engage whilst he begins measures to escape. The Jedi advance on, each in their own fighter. The goal is to get inside the Death Star. They don't have the means to destroy it from the outside, since it doesn't have the same weaknesses as before, so they must do it from the inside. Vader, Maul, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Luke, Leia, Ahsoka and Kanan successfully arrive on the Death Star. They can sense Sidious's presence and begin heading towards it. Sidious is panicked. He knows the only way they could have found him is through Vader, and he knows he cannot defeat all the Jedi aligned with the rebellion. And he was right. They found Sidious on his way to the hangar, who ignited 2 blades and tried to catch the Jedi off guard, but he was swiftly blocked and counterattacked. He tried to apply the pressure, but no matter what he did, his attacks were thwarted and ineffective. Vader would deal the finishing blow to the Emperor, enacting his revenge on the Sith Master. They plant seismic charges around the fuel canisters and exit the ship, detonating the explosion and destroying the Death Star. The Rebel Alliance takes control of the capital Coruscant and announces to the galaxy the defeat of Emperor Palpatine. They explain their future plans to re-establish the Galactic Senate and restore democracy to the Republic, but also destroy the remaining factions of the Empire. The rebellion's victory is celebrated all around the galaxy as the grip of Emperor Palpatine is lifted. The Jedi begin to celebrate as Maul interrupts, commanding Obi-Wan that the time for their duel has come. Obi-Wan tells him, so be it, and the two stand across from each other, lightsabers drawn. Maul moves first, lunging at the Jedi who blocks and takes evasive action. Maul presses on harder and harder, but the Master of Defense doesn't give Maul an opportunity. Maul goes for the same attack that he used on Qui-Gon, but Kenobi pulls his blade up, slicing through Maul's lightsaber, and with his free hand, swings him over his head and onto his back, defeated. Maul begs for Obi-Wan to kill him, who says he will not. He tells Maul his quest for vengeance has left him unfulfilled and off balance. He's always been moving down a path that was not his own. It wasn't his choice to join the dark side, but was forced upon him. But now together, with everyone's help, he can break free from these chains and begin living a life of hope and joy. Yoda proclaims they will help Maul down his new path, who accepts the Jedi's offer. Luke and Leia spend some time with their father, listening to the stories of their mother and their life before Anakin's turn. They decide to keep Vader's identity hidden from the rest of the galaxy, change his suit and mask so that he can look upon his children with his own eyes. Vader has a lot to make up for, but with his children by his side, he can begin to atone for his sins and help protect the galaxy he was destined to from the start. If you enjoyed this video, you have to watch What If Maul Was a Jedi and What If Thrawn Was a Jedi. Continue to let me know your video ideas in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.